And the next, we start the action agenda. First is the number 13, items considered in executive session. May I have a motion, please? This was with regard to Exhibit A, selected employment. Mr. Gant.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the selected employment items shown in Exhibit A.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Hammond seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed, that passes 6-0. Next is number 14, and this is where Franny Heiser, this is the resolution adopting written procedures relating to continuing disclosure. Would you like to come to the podium and explain this to all of us?
Madam Chair, members of the board, it's great to be with y'all on this cold and rainy night, but we're all nice and warm in here. Mr. White just mentioned the concept of best practices, and what we're recommending is that y'all adopt these written procedures related to disclosure and continuing disclosure as a best practice. A few years ago, we came to y'all and recommended that you adopt written procedures related to tax-exempt debt. That was because the IRS was making suggestions that a best practice would be to have such written procedures. Likewise, today, the Securities and Exchange Commission is indicating that it's a best practice to have written procedures relating to your continuing disclosure obligations. So basically, this just institutionalizes what you and your administration have been doing, and it's really business as usual. But by making it a written procedure, it will sort of be in the records, and if you've got any personnel changes or a lack of continuity, you will have it there for the next Lynn Richardson. And I'd be glad to answer any questions or...
Are there any questions?
Just clarifications. This is, as you're saying, it's no major change. It's our
Correct.
practice anyway.
Correct. It's just a best practice to have this written procedure in place largely for continuity purposes. This school district doesn't really have an issue with that, but some around the state do, and so uniformly we are asking the folks we work with the school districts we work with to consider adopting such written procedures.
All right. Thank you. If there's no other questions, then I'll ask for a motion. Mr. White?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution adopting written procedures relating to continuing disclosure, included as Exhibit D to our board packet.
Okay. Second?
Madam Chair, I second the motion, please.
All right. Any other questions, discussion?
Just one comment.
Yes.
Ms. Heiser, you always come in a very, very timely manner. You don't have to come back down, but after what we just sort of went through, talked about best practices, updating procedures, moving forward, I think it's so timely that you be here tonight. Good boards and good groups update, and that we'd be derelict in our duties not to, and I really appreciate you bringing it. And I think tonight, on the heels of what the little discussion we just had, is just perfect, and I appreciate it every time you do, that you give us that great legal advice, which we do get other great legal advice too, so thank you very much.
All right. So we have motion second. All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed, that passes 6-0. Next is the first reading of proposed revisions to several board policies. May I have a motion? Mr. Gant.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we give first reading of proposed revisions to board policies IKACC, placement of non-accredited private and homeschool secondary students, and IKF graduation requirements, IKF-R graduation requirements, and ILB-R test assessment administration, all shown in Exhibit E.
Okay, is there a second? Ms. Hammond seconds. Any discussion, questions? This is for Mr. Harris, is that who handles this?
Mr. Bounds.
Oh, okay.
First.
Oh, first reading, what'd I say? Oh, okay.
We've seconded. I mean, we're ready for a question.
Yes. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I want to
Okay.
add something. Yeah. I'm just curious, and I've read all this, but I was just curious, do we have a large number of homeschool kids in District 5? I mean, I'd like to know the number.
I don't know the exact number. We can certainly get that for you. Mr. Harris, do you know off the top of your head?
I mean,
give or-
you know, it can be ballpark, I'm not trying.
Through the district, currently we have 0. Through other associations throughout, there are a few hundred, I don't have the exact number, but there are a few hundred that are in and around our district that are participating through other homeschool associations.
I just asked simply because this is directly relating to them, you know, as far as any input from those people that are involved
The
in
most recent published number was right around 500 homeschoolers.
Do we
But
hear
again,
from them about-
None approved through us. They're all
None-
approved
so far,
through
we do not have any
independent
through us.
homeschooling organizations.
They don't go through our district for the
They
approval?
could, but they.
They don't, okay. That's what I was
And we've
curious.
had some that have come through, but not currently.
That is correct. That is correct.
And this is pretty much in line with School Boards Association?
This is correct. We used their template as a guide. And there were a few recommendations from the board at discussion last month, and we've incorporated those changes as well.
I noticed you changed the American Sign Language.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah, thanks. I can't remember what the other,
In the very back, the last policy, ILB-R, we made a significant change to help clarify the language in that policy. We had listed some of the examinations, but not all, and so I worked with Missy Wall Mitchell on more of a overarching paragraph that just says we're going to administer all state mandated assessments and then those assessments determined by the district as well. Because we were listing some of the examinations and we weren't listing them all, and so it was a bit confusing in that bulletized list. And then we confirmed, the other questions, we confirmed that we were accurate in our changes with the School Boards Association.
okay. Any other questions?
I had one
Ms.
more.
Hammond?
On the page, well, it's page 2 of this, where it says recommended revisions, I don't think anything changed, but that second paragraph where it says check all course documentation that are presented from the private home, is it done by the individual schools? I'm just trying to learn how that, you know, like who would, if we had one that was going through our district, are these test scores and things, who evaluates them?
Ma'am, I'm not prepared to discuss that. Can we get
Yeah, oh,
get
yeah,
back
I'm
with you?
just- okay.
Because
That's
our
fine.
change was only to remove the exit examination paragraph from that. So if we could get back with you on
Okay.
the specifics, we'd be happy to do that, unless one of the other
Wonder who Greg-
senior staff have the answer to that question.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, we have a motion. Could we have a vote? All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed, that passes 6-0. Last item on our agenda, number 16, is first reading of proposed revisions to Board Policy GCB. May I have a motion? Mr. Gant.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we give first reading of the proposed revisions to Board Policy GCB Professional Staff Contracts and Compensation shown in Exhibit F.
Okay, second. Ms. Lovelace, thank you. Any discussion? Questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed, that passes 6-0. And since both of those were first reading, if you do have questions, you can ask, who should they ask for the 16?
On number 16, you may ask Winnie Brown, who effective tomorrow will be our interim Chief Human Resources Officer. So she will pick up the gauntlet there from Dr. Bain.
Okay, okay. And then if they have any questions for number 15, that would be Mr. Bounds?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Ms. Watson?
Yes.
Before we leave that, questions, this is just general. Since some of this does affect the teachers in our district that are on the Terry, is there any major change of compensation for,
Well,
I mean, I know we've been able to
We've already voted
determine-
on this, Ms. Hammond. Can we,
Oh, I thought we had just voted.
yeah, you can ask afterwards or in the next meeting. Sorry. Okay, that ends our action agenda.